Well, we're still in Noirvember, so why not look at another film noir? This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. That's my closet, full of all the stuff that I love. And today, we visit a small town to investigate a suicide. Or was it murder? Let's check it out. Today's film is Cover Up from 1949, 82 minutes long, beautiful black and white. This is about an insurance investigator from the big city. He has to go to a small town to investigate a claim because somebody committed suicide, or it's possible that it was a murder. The problem he has is nobody in the town liked the victim, so there's plenty of suspects to go around, and they're all being very tight-lipped. Dennis O'Keefe plays the investigator. He's a good leading man. He was in several good noirs like T-Men and Walk a Crooked Mile, and other films like The Leopard Man and the original Brewster's Millions. He smokes throughout this film. I know a lot of noirs have people smoking, but it's pretty obvious. Almost every scene he's lighting up a cigarette or asking for a match or something. And some people say that's kind of a crutch for actors, gives them something to do with their hands. So, sometimes it stands out, sometimes it doesn't. William Bendix plays the sheriff in this small town, and the more I see William Bendix, the more I just like him and everything he does. I don't think he ever gives a bad performance. I've talked about him before, but he's been in some classic noirs like The Glass Key and The Blue Dahlia. He's much more low-key here than in some of those other films. He smokes a pipe, too, which is kind of an interesting affectation for a small-town sheriff. And he's always telling the O'Keefe character, a pipe's a lot better than smoking a cigarette. Barbara Britton plays the love interest. I am not familiar with her. She's a beautiful woman. She apparently was a Revlon girl before she went to acting. And she has a meet cute on the train with O'Keefe because she lives in this small town and he's on his way there on the train to investigate this suicide or murder. So there's a lot being made about big city values versus small town values and how the two environments are so different. Every time Bendix and O'Keefe have a scene together, Bendix is always saying, well, this is a small town. We don't do things here like you do in the big city. So it's constantly being drummed into the O'Keefe character. And the funny thing is, Barbara Britton is wearing all these designer outfits, these elaborate hats and these furs. So it's really incongruous, considering she's supposed to be this small town girl. Now let's get really obscure because a woman shows up in here that I keep seeing over and over again. I didn't know her name, but I recognize her. Her name's Virginia Christine, and she was in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, one of my all-time favorite 1950s science fiction films, probably one of my favorite films. And she's the one near the beginning who tells the doctor, played by Kevin McCarthy, Uncle Ira just isn't the same. There's something wrong with him. He looks like Uncle Ira, but there's that gleam in his eye is gone. He's just not quite right. She was also in, I think, that famous Twilight Zone episode, It's a Good Life, where the little boy, Billy Mooney, wishes people into the cornfield. He's kind of controlling the whole town. I think she's in that one too. And this get really obscure and really show your age. She was, I didn't realize this, Mrs. Olson in the Folgers coffee commercials. If you remember those commercials, Mrs. Olson would always show up no matter what family we were looking at. She was always there. It turned around, it was Mrs. Olson, and she always knew how to make a perfect cup of coffee. Cover Up is not the greatest film noir I've ever seen, but let's start with some positive remarks first. The feeling that everyone is hiding something really permeates the whole film, and I really like that feeling. And, every time O'Keefe interviews a possible suspect or a witness and he leaves the room, the camera stays on that person and they look concerned, like, is this person hiding something? Who is it? So kind of everybody is suspect, and since nobody liked the victim, everybody could have possibly done it. And I guess that's why they call it Cover Up, because it seems like everybody in the town is covering up what really happened with this murder or suicide. The bad things about this film are, the big reveal at the end about did somebody kill him, did he commit suicide, is pretty unconvincing, pretty lame. Kind of seemed like it was last minute they threw it in there. Another thing I didn't really care for was the music in this film. It's way overblown. Put it this way, whenever there's any kind of comic relief, you almost get a wah wah type music going with it. It's not quite that bad, but it's pretty close. And then the romantic scenes are really romantic music, overblown and melodramatic. And I know that happens in some of these films, but not in the best noirs. You don't hear that kind of overdone music. There are a few stereotypes too, like Barbara Britton has a kid sister and she really likes O'Keefe and she's real bratty and everything, and that's a real stereotype. They have a maid who is always very cranky and saying sarcastic things, and then you have a deputy, William Bendix's deputy, who's kind of dull-witted and kind of goofy and ineffectual, and the music accompanies him too, of course. As far as noir goes, visually, this is not a very interesting looking film. You're not going to see any really standout scenes. Maybe a couple are good as far as noir goes. No real set pieces that are really going to stand out for you. And that is really surprising considering the cinematographer is very well respected. Ernest Laszlo, he did a lot of work, including Judgment at Nuremberg. Great film. As far as the dialogue goes, you know, you're going to get the best scenes really are between O'Keefe and Bendix, and that's where the best dialogue comes in. O'Keefe's dialogue is the most noirish and kind of the snappy, direct, to the point dialogue, and Bendix is more laconic in this film, but their scenes together are good, and that's really where you're going to get any kind of that noirish dialogue. Otherwise, you're not going to get it really at all. So kind of underwhelmed with this one, so I'm going to give Cover Up 2.5 guns, actually squirt guns, out of 5. Guns because that's what was used for the murder or the suicide. I'm not going to reveal what it was. It was a Luger, actually. Little World War II backdrop there. And what's on this disc? This is a Kino disc. It's bare bones. There are not even any English subtitles. There's no extras, not even a trailer. Picture quality ranges from really good to terrible. The last 10 minutes or so, all of a sudden you see a lot of scratches show up. There's even an audio glitch at one point. And then there's a couple of scenes near the end that take place in darkness, and it's totally gray, totally washed out, shockingly so. At first I thought it was, maybe it's my TV, maybe the settings are off, but the dark scenes in the other parts of the film look fine. So that was really disappointing. The audio's fine. It's got that 4:3 aspect ratio, so you're going to get a square picture with bars on either side of the frame. I bought this one, I think, for $6.99 during a Kino sale. I don't think I'd pay more for that unless you are really a big Bendix fan or something. You know, it might be worth $6.99 to you. So where can you see Cover Up, and if you still want to see it? I see it listed on 2 streaming services, neither of which I'm familiar with. I've just heard of them. One's called Fandor and one's called Tubi. So Cover Up, unfortunately, a bit of a disappointment for me on this during this Noir-vember. But I did like seeing Bendix in this film again. So feel free to leave a comment or suggestion down below. Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe, it'd be great. We're almost at 375, our next goal. Share this with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, hope you like this one. Thank you again for watching and subscribing. See you next time.